This is the lecture for test 4 review. These are the questions that I marked easy, and I think there are 13 of them, 14 questions that are marked easy that do not need me to show you the screen for graphing or whatever. So anyways, I just wanted to go through those, and then I'll have separate videos for the medium and the hard, and then the ones that I want to show the screen. So the first question wanted to know whether or not these points made up an isosceles triangle. So the one thing you need to know is what an isosceles triangle is, and that's where, like, if you were to plot these points, if you would have two equal sides, so here's two sides that are equal in length, and if you have that, then it is an isosceles. So the long way to do this would be to pick 2 points, like let's say you pick these two, put them into the distance formula, figure out how far they are from each other, and then pick 2 other points, put it into the distance formula, see how far they are from each other, and then pick the last 2 points, put them into the distance formula, see how far they are from each other. And if 2 of those distances are equal, then you have an isosceles triangle. But there's a little easier way to do that. If you recognize that when you use the distance formula, what they're really doing is they're finding initially the distances between the x's and the y's. So you could just take 2 points and go, well, the distance between those two x's, 4 minus 0 is 4, and then the distance between the two y's, 3 minus 0 is 3. So I have a distance of 4 and 3 with the x's and y's. And then if I do these two guys, 7 minus 4, so the distance between the two x's is 3, and 7 minus 3, the distance between the two y's is 4. It doesn't matter that one's x and one's y. The point is you have a 4 and a 3 and a 4 and a 3, basically. So that is enough for you to say, yes, that's an isosceles triangle. You could also plot it and look at the visual. That's a little bit trickier because if your graph isn't accurate, you may not necessarily know whether 2 sides are exactly equal, but at least it kind of gets you in the ballpark. Okay, the next one I want to do, number 11. So it wants me to write the equation of this line, and they give me the slope is -4 and the y-intercept is 0, 6. So if you remember that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, and you recognize that m is the slope, then that's going to be a -4. So y equals -4x, and b is your y-intercept, and we only use the y value of the y-intercept, so that's a 6. So then you're done. That's your answer. Y equals -4x plus 6, because -4 is the slope and 6 is the y-intercept. Okay, so now what I want to do is go to question number 12. And on 12, they gave me a picture of a line, and they wanted me to find the equation of that line. So once again, we know that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So if I can just find the slope and the y-intercept, then I'll know the equation of this line. Well, I know the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it crosses at 6. So my b is a 6. My slope is going to be my rise and my run from one point to the next. So if I start here and count up, 1, 2, 3, that's my rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is my run. So my slope is 3 over 8. My rise, which is 3, over my run, which is 8. I throw my x in next to the slope, and my answer is y equals 3/8, because that's my rise 3, my run 8, x plus 6, because my y-intercept is 6. All right, so let's move on to question number 13. 13 says to graph y equals 8. So one thing I want you to memorize is if you just have y equals a constant, in other words, there's no x in there, it's always going to be a horizontal line. Horizontal lines go left and right, and it's going to cross at whatever that number is. So if that's 8, so let's say that's 8 on the y-axis, then your line is just going to go horizontal and cross through the 8. So memorize that rule. It makes it very simple The alternate is if I had x equals a number, then it would be a vertical line going through that number. All right, let's look at question 17. Now 17 was kind of interesting, but there's somewhat of a pattern here that you can memorize so that it makes the question easier. In this case, they're like, oh, in 1 hour, you know, I can see 8 new people in each hour. Each of those people sees 8 new people or whatever. So the important thing is to identify what number your problem is using. In my problem, they used 8. So this is going to be 8 to the 1. This is going to be 8 to the 2, 8 to the 3, 8 to the 4. And then all I need to do is put that in my calculator. So this is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 8 times 8 is, don't know off the top of my head, 64 times 8, 512, I believe. And then 8 to the 4th is 4096. But that's the pattern. You take the number that they give you, and then each answer is that number raised to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Question number 18. We have the square root of 2x equals 10. To undo a square root, I would square, because those cancel each other, but that means I have to square the right. So I get just plain old 2x on this side equals 100, because 10 squared is 100. Then divide by 2, and I get x equals 50. So that's pretty fast, not too difficult. If you just practice it a few times, that should be a pretty straightforward problem for you. All right, this next one, what I'm going to do is I'm trying to get x by itself. So first I'll move the 3 by subtracting. I get x squared equals 144. To undo a square, I would square root, but that means I have to square root that side. And I get x equals 12. But remember, when you impose your own square root, you have to account for the positive and negative answer. In other words, positive 12 times positive 12 gives me 144. But negative 12 times negative 12 also gives me 144. So remember to put your plus or minus in there. Okay, this one is b equals h and u, and we're solving for u. So how would I get u by itself? I would divide by the h and n, because then they'll cancel. But in order to divide on the right side, I have to divide on the left side. So I'm done. My answer is u equals b over hn. And keep in mind on these questions, if I had had a capital letter, I would need to type it in as a capital letter in order for them to mark my answer right. So pay attention to whether it's uppercase or lowercase. All right, let's move to these last 6 questions. On number 23, they ask for the greatest common factor of these 3 numbers. So what I do is I first actually just think about the number, the coefficients there, 110, 30, and 60. And a nice place to start with these is to start with the lowest number and see if it fits in. In other words, does 30 go into 60 evenly? So if I did 60 divided by 30 on my calculator, I would get a nice whole number, which is 2. But if I did 110 divided by 30, it does not go in evenly. So therefore, 30 doesn't work. So then what I want to do is think of the factors of 30. So if I list the factors of 30, they would be obviously 1 goes into everything, 2 goes into 30, 3 goes into 30, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 30. So those are the factors of 30. So 30 didn't work, then I want to work my way down. Does 15 goes into 30 evenly, it goes into 60 evenly, but again, it does not go into 110 evenly. So then I try 10, and 10 does go into all of them. So that's the greatest common factor to those coefficients. Now, the letters, the variables are easy. You always choose whichever one has the smallest power. So x to the 5th. So that's my greatest common factor, 10 x to the 5th. So let's look at this next one, number 24. This is even easier because I don't have big numbers for my coefficients to worry about. So I'm just going to look at the a's first. So here's a to the fourth, a to the 1. The smallest is a to the 1. So a is what I'm going to choose. And then I look at the b's. I have a b to the 1 and a b to the 4th. Well, the smallest is b to the 1. If they had asked for the negative greatest common factor, I would put a negative, but they did not. So I would always assume if they don't say negative that they want the positive of the greatest common factors. So that is my answer, A, B. A is the smallest of the A's, B is the smallest of the B's, and I would give them the positive. So we do this so that we can lead up to a problem like this. They want me to factor this. So I'm going to first find the GCF. So I'm looking at those numbers 6 and 3. I start with the smallest and see if it fits into both. It does. 3 goes into 6, 3 goes into 3. So 3 is my greatest common factor regarding the coefficients. For the letters, the variables, I have t to the 1, t to the 2. T to the 1 is smaller, so that's going to be my greatest common factor. So if I pull that out, then I need a parentheses to show them what's left for each of these terms. If I start with 2 terms, I need to have 2 terms remaining in this parentheses. So the question is 3t times what gives me 6t squared? Well, 3 times 2 gives me 6, and t times t gives me t squared. So that one is 2t. Okay, then I have a plus, because that's a plus. 3t times what gives me 3t? The number 1. And this is what kind of messes people up a lot. They forget to do this one. Remember, you have to have the same number of terms in the parentheses that you started with in the problem. The other thing is you can double check by distributing. What's 3t times 2t? It's 6t squared. What's 3t times 1? It's 3t. And that's a good way to double check your work. Okay, number 26. The reason this is easy is because they've done half the work. So really, all you have to do is go, well, x times what is x squared? X. 7 times what is 28? 4. And that's all you have to do on that problem. So just pay attention to, trying to make that first and last term work out. X times x is x squared. 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, number 27, if you had to do it all on your own, would be a very difficult problem. But this is a multiple choice, so you just have to pick which one works out. You could FOIL each of these. Remember, FOILing is first, outer, inner, last. So you would multiply the first 2 terms, the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms, and see which one gives you this as an answer. But you'll notice in this problem that the first terms, 6y times y, is 6y squared. 6y times y is 6y squared. 2y times 3y is 6y squared. 2y times 3y is 6y squared. They all have the same answer for the first term, so that doesn't really help you determine which is the answer. And they all have the same answer for the last term, or for the last part of the FOIL. Negative 7 times 8 is negative 56. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. Negative 7 times 8 is negative 56. 8 times negative 7 is negative 56. So what matters on these really is just the inner and outer. So if I multiply the inner 2 terms, I get negative 7y, and the outer 2 terms would be plus 48y. And if those are like terms, if I combine them together, I get a positive 41y, which is what they have. So this actually is going to be my answer. None of the others are going to give me the positive 41y. So let's just double check. So the inner is 7y. The outer is negative 48y. So this gives me a negative 41y, which is not what they had originally. This one, the inner, is negative 21y. The outer is positive 16y. If I combine those, I get negative 5y, which is not 41y. And then finally here, the inner, I get 24y. The outer is negative 14y. So I get a positive 10y, which is not 41y. Okay, hopefully I didn't make a mistake on that. But anyway, you're looking for where the outer and inner, once you combine the like terms, gives you the middle term from your initial problem. Okay, and then finally we have number 29, b squared minus 64 equals 0. This is similar to what we did over here on 18 and 19. So I'm just going to isolate the b by adding 64. So I get b squared equals 64. How do I solve that? Remember here, x squared equals 144. I take the square root to undo the square. But when I take my own square root, I need a plus or minus. So my answer is b equals plus or minus 8. So don't forget your plus or minus, or else you will end up losing half the points. So that is it for the questions that are easy. Remember, they're not easy as in, you know, anyone can walk up and just figure it out. They're easy because they're fast and easy to learn. You could put minimal time into these to be able to learn them. All right, I'll see you in the medium video.